Hey everybody, it's Ellen. Welcome to our show today, where we're diving into something really important, especially for our friends down in Florida. We're talking hurricanes. You know, those big swirling storms that Florida's kind of known for? From June 1st to November 30th, it's hurricane season in the Sunshine State. And let me tell you, it's not all sunshine and rainbows during these months. Now, I love Florida. The beaches are beautiful, the people are warm, and the oranges are delicious. But hurricanes? Not so much. These storms are powerful forces of nature and they can really pack a punch. We're talking high winds, heavy rains, and flooding. It's serious stuff, folks. So why are we talking about this? Well, because being informed is the first step to being prepared. And when it comes to hurricanes, being prepared can literally save your life. We're going to talk about all that good stuff, how hurricanes form, what to do when one's coming. But first, let's hear from some folks who've been through it. Later in the show, we'll meet some incredible Floridians who have weathered the storm literally. They've got stories to tell, and believe me, you're going to want to hear them, so stay tuned. We've all seen the pictures, right? Houses ripped apart, trees uprooted, streets turned into rivers. It's hard to imagine the power of a hurricane until you've seen it firsthand. These storms are like giant engines, fueled by warm ocean water. They spin and churn, picking up speed and strength as they go. And here's the thing, hurricanes are unpredictable. They can change direction quickly, they can intensify overnight. That's why it's so important to stay informed and be prepared. We need to respect Mother Nature's power, you know what I mean? But here's the thing about Floridians, they're resilient, they're tough, they know how to handle a hurricane. It's almost like they have a sixth sense for these things. They board up their windows, they stock up on supplies, and they help their neighbors do the same. And that's what this show is all about today, helping you get prepared. We're going to talk about everything from evacuation routes to emergency kits. We're going to give you the tools you need to stay safe during hurricane season. Okay, so here's something that scientists are talking about, and it's a little concerning. It seems like hurricanes are getting stronger and more frequent. And you know what they think is causing it? Climate change. That's right, folks. Our planet is heating up, and that's messing with the weather. See, warmer ocean water gives hurricanes more fuel. It's like giving a kid a whole bag of candy before bedtime. They're going to be bouncing off the walls. And that extra energy makes the storms stronger and more destructive. Now, I'm not a scientist, but I listen to the experts. And they're telling us that we need to pay attention to this. We need to do our part to protect our planet. We need to reduce our carbon footprint. We need to recycle. We need to vote for leaders who take climate change seriously. Because if we don't, these hurricanes, they're only going to get worse. But don't worry, folks, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot we can do to prepare for hurricane season, and that's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to talk about how to create an emergency kit, what to do if you need to evacuate. We're going to answer all your questions about hurricane preparedness. And you know what? We're going to have some fun while we're doing it, because that's what we do here. We educate and entertain. We laugh and we learn. And by the end of this show, you're going to be saying, "Bring it on, hurricane season. I'm ready for you." So stay tuned, everybody. We've got a lot more to talk about. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back, everybody. Now, I told you we'd hear from some amazing Floridians who faced hurricanes head-on. Well, get ready to be inspired. Our first guest is Maria. Maria, everybody.
Ellen, it was terrifying. I'd never seen anything like it. The wind howled outside like a wild animal. It ripped through the trees, sending branches flying. I could hear things crashing and banging. My whole house was shaking.
I can't even imagine. What were you thinking during all of that?
Honestly, Ellen, I thought it was the end. The power went out early on and I was plunged into darkness. All I had was the sound of the wind and the rain and my own racing heart. It felt like it went on forever.
Did you evacuate, Maria?
I tried to, Ellen, I really did. But the roads were jammed. Everyone was trying to get out at the same time. I got stuck in traffic for hours, and then the storm started getting really bad. I had to turn back.
So you went back home? How scary to face that alone.
I was terrified, Ellen. My house is old and I wasn't sure it would hold up. I ended up taking shelter in my tiny bathroom. It was the most protected room in the house.
You spent the whole night in your bathroom?
It felt like the longest night of my life, Ellen. The wind howled outside and the rain beat down on the roof. I huddled on the bathroom floor with my dog Coco, holding her tight.
What about supplies? Did you have everything you needed?
I had some water and snacks, a flashlight, and a battery-powered radio. But honestly, Ellen, I was too scared to eat or drink much. I just wanted the storm to be over.
I can only imagine, Maria. So the storm finally passed. What was it like when you finally stepped outside?
It was like waking up in a different world, Ellen. The streets were flooded, trees were down everywhere, and debris was scattered as far as the eye could see. My yard was gone.
Oh my goodness, what did you do?
I was in shock, Ellen. I didn't know where to start. But then, something amazing happened. This young man, a complete stranger, saw me standing there looking lost, and he came right over.
Really, what did he do?
He helped me clear the debris from my yard and board up my broken windows. He even brought me some bottled water and a hot meal. It was just what I needed, Ellen. That's incredible, Maria. People helping people. That's what it's all about. What happened next? Well, Ellen, it took weeks to get things back to normal, or at least something resembling normal. The whole community pulled together to help each other. We cleared debris, we shared food and water, we comforted each other. The strength of the human spirit shines brightest during tough times. You must be so proud of your community, Maria. I am, Ellen, I really am. We learned that we're stronger together than we are alone. And we learned that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope. And you're sharing your story to help others prepare, right? Absolutely, Ellen. I want people to know that hurricanes are serious business, but we can get through them. We need to be prepared, we need to help each other, and we need to never give up hope. You're an inspiration, Maria. Thank you for sharing your story. Now, we have another guest who has a harrowing hurricane story to tell. Please welcome John. John, you went through Hurricane Michael in 2018, right? That's right, Ellen. Michael was a beast. I've lived in Florida my whole life, and I've seen my share of hurricanes, but nothing like that. What made Michael so different? The storm surge, Ellen. It came in so fast. I was watching the news, and they were talking about the storm surge, but I never thought it would be that bad. You underestimated the water. I did, Ellen. Before I knew it, the water was up to my front porch. Then it started coming in the house. I was trapped, Ellen. Oh my gosh, what did you do? I grabbed my phone and called 911, but the lines were down. I was starting to panic, Ellen. I didn't know what to do. I bet those were terrifying moments. They were, Ellen. But then, I heard a banging on my roof. It was a rescue team. They'd come in a boat and saw me through my attic window. They got me out of there just in time. Wow, John, what a story. You're so lucky they found you. I am, Ellen. Those rescuers were my guardian angels that day. And you know what else? My neighbors. The ones whose houses weren't flooded, they took me in. They gave me food, clothes, a place to stay. They didn't even hesitate. That's the Florida spirit right there. You've both been through so much, and yet here you are, sharing your stories to help others. Thank you both for reminding us that even in the face of disaster, kindness and resilience prevail.
We're back, and now it's time for a little science lesson. But don't worry, I promise to keep it fun. We're going to talk about how hurricanes actually form. It's pretty amazing, actually. Picture this. The sun beats down on the ocean, and the water heats up. Now imagine that warm water is like a giant pot of coffee on a stove. As the coffee heats up, it starts to steam, right? Well, the same thing happens with ocean water. It evaporates, meaning it turns into vapor and rises up into the air. Now here's where things get interesting. As that warm, moist air rises, it cools down and forms clouds. And guess what? More warm air rushes in to take its place, creating a spinning motion. It's like a giant whirlpool in the sky. And that, my friends, is how a hurricane is born. It's basically a giant engine fueled by warm ocean water and driven by the Earth's rotation. Pretty wild, huh? So, we've got these swirling storms of wind and rain, but how do we know how strong they are? Well, that's where the Saffir-Simpson scale comes in. It's like a rating system for hurricanes, kind of like how we rate movies, except instead of G, PG, and R, we have categories from 1 to 5. A Category 1 hurricane is like a summer blockbuster. It's got some action, some excitement, but it's not gonna blow you away. We're talking wind speeds of 74 to 95 miles per hour. That's enough to knock down some trees, cause some power outages, but nothing too crazy. But as we climb the scale, things get real serious, real fast. A Category 5 hurricane is like that movie that leaves you speechless, on the edge of your seat, wondering how it's even possible. These are the monsters of the storm world, with wind speeds of 157 miles per hour or higher. Now, I know what you're thinking. 157 miles per hour? That's faster than my car goes on the freeway. And you're right. These winds are strong enough to tear roofs off buildings, uproot trees like they're toothpicks, and toss cars around like toys. And it's not just the wind, folks. We've got torrential rains that cause massive flooding, storm surges that can inundate entire coastal communities. These storms are nothing to mess with. And here's the thing. Even a Category 1 hurricane can be dangerous. We tend to focus on the big numbers, but any hurricane can bring life-threatening conditions. So, no matter what category a hurricane is, it's important to take it seriously and be prepared. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about hurricanes, the better equipped you'll be to stay safe. Section 4. Hurricane Alley, Florida in the crosshairs. Okay, so we've talked about hurricanes, but why does Florida seem to be a magnet for these storms? Well, it's all about location, location, location. Florida is a peninsula, which means it's surrounded by water on 3 sides. And what do hurricanes love? That's right, warm ocean water. So Florida's like a giant buffet for hurricanes. Plus, Florida sits smack dab in the middle of what's called Hurricane Alley, a stretch of the Atlantic Ocean where hurricanes are most likely to form and travel. And if that wasn't enough, Florida's coastline is relatively flat, which means there are no big mountains to block those powerful hurricane winds. So when a hurricane heads towards Florida, it's got a clear shot at the coast. Section 5, 2023, a year for the record books. Speaking of hurricanes hitting Florida, let's talk about last year, 2023. It was a busy one for the Sunshine State, wasn't it? Remember Hurricane Idalia? That was a nail-biter. It made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane, bringing record storm surge to parts of the Gulf Coast. And who can forget Hurricane Franklin earlier in the season? While it didn't directly hit Florida, it churned up the Atlantic, causing dangerous rip currents and beach erosion along the East Coast. These storms are a reminder that hurricane season is serious business. We can't control Mother Nature, but we can control how prepared we are. So pay attention to those weather reports, folks. Knowing what's coming is half the battle. Section 6. Knowledge is power. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to hurricanes. The more you understand about these powerful storms, how they form, and what to do when one approaches, the safer you and your loved ones will be. Gearing up for the big one, the Essential Hurricane Kit. We're back, everybody, and now it's time to get down to business. We've talked about the science behind hurricanes, heard some incredible survival stories, and now it's time to prepare ourselves. Because you know what they say? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. First things first, we need to create a hurricane kit. Think of it like your survival backpack for when a hurricane decides to crash the party. And trust me, you don't want to be caught off guard. Now, when I say kit, I don't just mean a few granola bars and a bottle of water. We're talking about enough supplies to last you and your family for at least 3 days, preferably longer. Because in a hurricane, you never know how long you'll be without power, water, or access to stores. Water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. Speaking of water, that's public enemy number 1 during a hurricane. Clean, safe drinking water, that is. Remember, those pipes might not be working after a storm, so you've got to be prepared. The rule of thumb is 1 gallon of water per person per day. So if you've got a family of 4, you'll need at least 12 gallons just for drinking. And don't forget about your furry friends. They need to stay hydrated too. Now I know what you're thinking, Ellen? Where am I going to find room for all that water? Well, you can buy bottled water, of course, but you can also get creative. Fill up empty milk jugs or soda bottles. Just make sure they're clean and sanitized first. And hey, you can even buy water purification tablets or a water filter just in case. Fueling up for the storm. Okay, next up on the hurricane preparedness checklist, fuel. And I'm not just talking about coffee, although that's important too. I'm talking about gas for your car. Before a hurricane hits, make sure your tank is full. And I mean full, full, full. Because if you need to evacuate, you don't want to be stuck in a gas line with the storm closing in. Trust me, that's not a situation you want to be in. And speaking of evacuation, it's a good idea to have some extra gas on hand too. Store it in approved containers, of course, and keep it in a safe place. You never know when you might need it. Section 4. Your home, your fortress. Now, let's talk about protecting your humble abode. When a hurricane comes knocking, you want your home to be ready to rumble. First things first, windows. Those are like the eyes of your house, and you need to protect them. The best way to do that is to board them up with plywood. And don't wait until the last minute. Get those boards measured, cut, and ready to go well in advance. Next up, anything that can fly, swim, or just generally cause trouble in a hurricane needs to be brought inside. We're talking patio furniture, grills, plants, those little pink flamingos you've got in the yard. You know what I'm talking about? Section 5. To evacuate or not to evacuate? That is the question. Okay, so you've got your hurricane kit, your house is boarded up, and you're all fueled up. Now comes the big question. To evacuate or not to evacuate? That is the question. Here's the thing. When local officials issue an evacuation order, it's not a suggestion. It's not a drill. It means it's time to go, folks. They know what they're talking about, and it's always better to be safe than sorry. Now, I know leaving your home can be scary and stressful, but trust me, it's better than riding out a hurricane in a danger zone. If you're told to evacuate, don't hesitate. Just go. Section 6. Mapping out your escape route. The importance of evacuation planning. But here's the thing about evacuation. You can't just hop in your car and wing it. You need a plan. And not just any plan, a well thought out, everyone knows what to do kind of plan. First things first, you need to know where you're going. Do you have family or friends inland you can stay with? Is there a designated evacuation shelter in your area? Figure that out ahead of time and map out your route. And don't forget about communication. Make sure everyone in your family has a copy of the evacuation plan, knows the route, and has important phone numbers memorized. Remember, folks, preparation is key. By taking these steps now, you'll be ready to face whatever Mother Nature throws your way. We'll be right back with more hurricane preparedness tips after the break, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. We've been talking about hurricanes and how to prepare for them, which is super important. But there's another big piece of the puzzle we need to talk about, and that's climate change. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ellen, you're gonna get all serious on me now. And you're right, I am. This is important stuff, folks. Climate change isn't just about polar bears on melting ice caps anymore. It's affecting our weather right here, right now. Here's the deal. Our planet is getting warmer. We're talking about the Earth's average temperature rising, and that's messing with everything, including the delicate balance of our atmosphere and oceans. And guess what? Hurricanes thrive on that warm ocean energy. Remember that giant pot of coffee analogy we talked about earlier? Well, imagine turning up the heat on that stove. What happens? The coffee boils faster and more intensely, right? That's kind of what's happening with our oceans and hurricanes. As the oceans absorb more heat from the atmosphere, they become like a giant energy drink for hurricanes. Warmer water means more evaporation, which means more fuel for those swirling storms. And it's not just about hurricanes forming, it's about them getting stronger, faster. We're talking about storms intensifying rapidly, going from a Category 1 to a Category 4 in the blink of an eye. That's like a gentle breeze turning into a roaring monster truck rally overnight. But wait, there's more. Climate change isn't just making hurricanes stronger, it's also messing with our sea levels. You see, as the planet warms, glaciers and ice caps melt at an alarming rate, adding more water to our oceans. Now you might be thinking, okay, so the sea level rises a few inches, big deal. But here's the thing, those few inches can make a world of difference when a hurricane hits. We're talking about higher storm surges, which are those walls of water that hurricanes push onto shore. Higher sea levels mean those walls are starting from a higher point, leading to more flooding, more damage, and more danger for coastal communities. The rainmakers, climate change, and extreme precipitation. And if stronger winds and higher sea levels weren't enough, climate change is also turning hurricanes into rainmaking machines. You see, warmer air holds more moisture. That's just science, folks. So, as hurricanes churn over those increasingly warmer oceans, they're sucking up more and more water vapor like giant sponges. And when those sponges hit land, we're talking about torrential downpours, widespread flooding, and rivers overflowing their banks. Remember Hurricane Harvey in Texas back in 2017? That storm dumped over 60 inches of rain in some areas, causing catastrophic flooding. Sadly, those kinds of extreme rainfall events are becoming more common, and climate change is a major culprit. Section 5. Preparing for a new normal adaptation and mitigation strategies. Okay, so the news isn't great, but don't despair. We're not helpless in the face of climate change. We can adapt and mitigate, which are fancy words for smart planning and taking action. On the adaptation front, we're talking about things like strengthening infrastructure, building seawalls, restoring coastal ecosystems, and creating early warning systems for extreme weather events. Mitigation is all about reducing those greenhouse gas emissions that are warming our planet. Think renewable energy, energy efficiency, sustainable transportation, and protecting our forests. It's about making choices that are good for the planet and good for us. Section 6. United we stand, divided we fall. A call for collective action. Climate change is a global challenge, and it requires a global response. We need leaders who take this seriously, who are willing to work together to find solutions. And we need to hold them accountable. But it's not just about governments and big corporations. We all have a role to play. Every little bit helps, folks. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Choose energy-efficient appliances. Walk, bike, carpool, plant a tree. Remember, we're all in this together. Let's be kind to our planet, kind to each other, and face this challenge head-on with the same resilience and spirit that Floridians show every hurricane season. We'll be right back with more after the break. Section 1. Hurricane season, a time for unity and strength. We're back, and as we wrap up our show today, I can't help but feel a mix of emotions. On the one hand, it's impossible to ignore the sheer power and destructive potential of hurricanes. We've seen the images, heard the stories, and the impact is undeniable. But here's the thing that always gets me about Floridians. They don't just survive hurricane season. They face it head-on with a spirit of resilience and a sense of community that's just remarkable. Think about the stories we heard today. Maria huddled in her bathroom with her dog Coco, finding strength in the midst of fear. John, trapped by floodwaters, rescued by a team of heroes, and embraced by the kindness of his neighbors. These are the stories that remind us that even in the darkest of times, hope shines through. Section 2. Be prepared, be kind, be strong, Florida. So, as we head into another hurricane season, let's remember those stories. Let's remember the power of preparation, the importance of community, and the unwavering spirit of the human heart. To everyone in Florida and to anyone living in a hurricane-prone area, I urge you, be prepared. Take those steps now to protect yourselves, your loved ones, and your property. Build your hurricane kit, know your evacuation route, and stay informed. But just as importantly, be kind. Check on your neighbors, lend a helping hand to those in need, and remember that we're all in this together. Because when the winds howl and the rains fall, it's that spirit of community, that unwavering support for one another, that will see us through. Be prepared, be kind, be strong, Florida, and remember, we're all rooting for you. From all of us here at The Ellen Show, stay stay safe and have a great hurricane season.